Our parsha this Shabbat is Mishpatim, and a lot happens in it. Laws are given ranging from the treatment of slaves, murder, adultery, and theft, to giving kindness to the strangers. There are laws relating to loans, the giving of loans, and the responsibility that is taken upon by the 4 guardians, as well as rules governing the conduct of justice by courts of law. Commands were given, but now rules are given to enforce them. So we got those commandments last Shabbat, but now what are we going to do with it? If someone steals, if someone commits adultery, what are we going to do? So this is where we're taking those steps towards that. There are more laws which follow. This Shabbat, including, we've got the commandment to observe the sabbatical year. Once again, the reminder to keep Shabbat. We have the mitzvah of prayer. So doing this prayer work that you're doing, this is a mitzvah. You are elevating yourself, your soul, and the world. And then the command to observe the 3 pilgrimage festivals. Which one's coming up sooner than we think? Passover, Pesach. And then the rules of sacrificial offerings, which we have to do in a different way now. At the command to not cook meat with milk. Some people want to mix their meat with their dairy. Here we just put it on separate parts of the table and you make your own decisions. But this is where the command is. The people essentially, officially enter into the covenant with God. Moses and his highest leaders ascend the mountain and see God. Remember, the people last Shabbat didn't want to see God. When there was thunder and fire, they were like, it's too much for us. Take it away. No, Moses, you talk to God. So now Moses is not doing it alone. We heard several weeks ago, his father-in-law said, you should spread out the responsibilities, and all the different tribes have different magistrates and leaders and things. And so now some of them went up with him onto the mountain to actually see and bear witness to God. And then at the end, Moses stays up there longer, 40 days on the mountain, to receive the full Torah, not just the 10 Commandments. This parsha has within it 53 mitzvot, 23 commanded what you shall do, and 30 no, you cannot do that. This Shabbat, we're going to actually delve a little bit into what I mentioned at the beginning, the laws of the guardian. I don't think we've ever covered this before. So there are 4 types outlined in the Torah. The first one is the unpaid guardian. Since he receives no benefit from watching the item, he is not going to be liable if the object is lost or stolen, unless he has been negligent. And then we have the next 2, the paid guardian and the renter. Both of them receive some benefit and are obligated to pay in a case where the object was lost or stolen. Why? Because they benefited from it. And then we go on to another category, which is very important, but we need to know first with the 2, the paid guardian and the renter, that if the object is destroyed by an event that was not in their control, let's say there was an earthquake or a flood or a fire, then they're a little bit exonerated. But yet the 4th guardian, the borrower, has the greatest liability because he receives all of the benefit as he uses the object without paying for it. The borrower is liable to pay, even if the object was destroyed by an event outside the borrower's control. The Torah outlines commands, mitzvot, rewards, and punishments. However, when it comes to laws about money, these laws are seen in another way. They are seen to be providing an actual foundation, a structure for the society to function upon. The Israelites were being taught ways of behavior and accountability beyond what they ever knew about as slaves in Egypt. They just received those commandments last week, as we said, but now in Mishpatim are getting the procedures and the ordinances to follow. So for our lawyers, this is what is thought to be the first torts. Mishpatim itself means ordinances. Yet the layer is like the bloomin', the Torah has got all these different layers, like that bloomin' onion, or like an artichoke, and you unpack it and you unfold so much more is revealed than just what's written that we read. It is thought, like all other parts of the Torah, that these details reveal deep psychological and spiritual truths. The Kabbalists believe that the 4 guardians represent 4 different states of mind that we have in relation to God, as well as in relation to our soul and our purpose as co-partners in God's creation. The Torah tells us that God created Adam and placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it. God entrusts us with a spiritual soul and gives us a mission to work it and guard it. We are meant to preserve and increase our goodness in the world with how we till our own being. God entrusts us with a spiritual soul, gives us this mission, and yet, do we see this happening today? It was deemed vital thousands of years ago that the foundation of a just society would have this practice of observance, of layers, of ordinances, of following these rules, and yet we still have challenges today as a global humanity who are not able to achieve this as God intended almost 6,000 years ago. Our soul's evolution is an ongoing process, and we are all up in each other's business, whether we like it or not. And our choices have a domino effect that weighs upon us all. We are meant to construct healthy relationships with each other and even with ourselves. We are to understand that someone isn't always going to win. We aren't supposed to always give or guard with the benefit of receiving something in return. We have to, at times, become the more altruistic guardian and mature to the point of being able to provide commitment and selfless devotion. This, as I said, actually I haven't said this yet, it's Shabbat Mishpatim, but it's also Shabbat Shekelim, where a portion, shekels, were given to support the ongoing costs of keeping the tabernacle. This is as important, maybe even more important today, as faith is waning, synagogues and Jews are under attack all over the world, and the need to keep things going is even more pressing. This Shabbat comes right before Purim, when we recall Haman and all of his predecessors and his descendants. We're talking Amalek, and then we're talking Hitler and others who sought to destroy us. To tell the story, to remember, and then to drink and obliterate that name, that evil, so we don't know the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordecai. Why? We're going to have a margarita machine, we're going to have chocolate martinis, apple martinis, we're going to have jello shots, we're going to have all kinds of stuff. Why? Because there should always be balance. Like the yin and the yang, the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer HaTov, the influence to do evil and good is always there. We have to be the guardians of our soul. We have to guard its journey and our choices and their impact upon ourselves, each other, and our world. We need to know that sometimes we will want to benefit directly from what we need to do and what we're doing. But then there are times when we must just do it for the sake of doing. Anonymous giving is thought to be the most high form for this very reason. The gift that is given without any expectation of personal gain, acknowledgement, or reward on high. We have tried multiple times to create an endowment fund for the temple, and as far as I know, only one person has formally done this, who will remain anonymous in my sermon, therefore to receive the greatest blessing on high. Sometimes people tell me. Sometimes they tell me before they're sick. Sometimes they tell me while they're sick. And I don't want to get up too much in it because I'm there pastorally. But sometimes people tell me that they want to give money for the temple, or they want to give a house to the temple, or they want to do this or do that, but they don't write it down. And then the families have to decide what to do. And it's not always what the person wanted. Sometimes we're surprised and a gift is given that is unexpected. Or maybe it's more money than the person had told us. Sometimes absolutely nothing is given. There's all kinds of circumstances and things that happen in the world and in our lives, but the choice is up to us individually and our soul. My children know, and it is written down, and I sent this sermon to my daughter lest she forget, and she sent me an email back thanking me, said she needed that Temple Emet will receive a certain portion. But also the synagogue in Dallas, where we all got our start. So at the time when I was discussing this originally with my children, the question was asked, why? Why them? Why the ones in Dallas? You know, if anything, give Emet double, but why them? What if the money is needed for other things? What if we need that money? And I said, we wouldn't be living the lives we are living, doing the things that we are doing today, were it not for our time. There was a pledge made during that endowment campaign, and it will be kept. Shabbat Shekalim, thousands of years ago, God knew that money would need to be set aside, not just then, but for eternity. Set aside to support the future of the faith and its sustainability. And we had to be commanded to do it. We still have to be commanded to do it. We are not always in touch with that guardian aspect of our soul's journey, or our place in the hierarchy of what it means to guard, borrow, rent, or selflessly give. A healthy relationship is one in which both parties benefit from the relationship. That is what is supposed to happen in our dealings with each other, and that is what is supposed to happen in our dealings and in our relationship with God. God created Adam to work and till the garden for benefit, as much as we are meant to work on behalf of God, as co-partners in this world, as the keepers of the faith. For in so doing, God blesses us and provides us with our material and our spiritual needs. The Kabbalists say, just like in human relationships where there are different levels, so too is our relationship with God. No one is exempt. On one end, there is a person who is primarily interested in receiving the benefits that life has to offer. Give me, please do this for me, please do that for me. What do I tell you when you pray? Always add on for the purpose of sharing. Not for myself alone, but for the purpose of sharing. And then on the other end, there is the person who is the unpaid guardian. He or she is in love with God, so much so to the point of being completely altruistic. His or her motivation is to serve God and to do the right thing for its own sake. In our personal relationships, there are times when we should benefit, and yet we must also experience selfless devotion at times to our partner, sometimes even when feeling it not. The same holds true in our relationship with God. At times we will be a borrower, motivated primarily by our own needs and desires, but we should always seek those precious moments when we transcend our own ego and act as an unpaid guardian, motivated primarily by the desire to devote ourselves to our beloved. We do this in our relationships with our other humans in our world, and we must do this with God. So as we go forth through this Shabbat Shekalim of Mishpatim, let us think about the times when we have been a borrower, expecting full benefit and gain. And then let us think about the times when we were unpaid, an unpaid guardian, giving fully and completely with no expectation of reward except for the act, the mitzvah, the gift of being able to do it. Being able to help another person, being able to uplift someone, being able to serve and uplift the community, whatever it takes to do that selflessly. We are all blessed with different gifts from God. Abundance comes in many forms. If you are blessed with an abundance of time, ask yourself how you're spending it, especially as time goes on and you start to retire or whatever. What are you doing with it? The same holds true with financial resources. Even if it's just a mere shekel, or whether it's an abundant flow, how will you share it? If you have been blessed, how will you share it? Yes, there will always be places that it needs to be put, but where can you altruistically give to elevate and make a difference? We cannot take it with us. Every shekel counts. Every action makes a difference. May we be selfless, and may we be devoted in our choices. And as our soul's greatest guardian, may we find merit and blessing on high for our choices, our devotion, and our pledge to uphold and observe and be there for the beloved beside us and the beloved around us. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.